And then there were two pipelines, that is. Western Standard Chief Editor Dave Naylor is here to talk about not one, but two pipeline proposals for Alberta. Dave, welcome back. Great to have you again.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It reminded me of an old Oprah Winfrey show. You get a pipeline, and you get a pipeline,
you get a pipeline.
and you get a pipeline.
Yeah. We went from no pipelines to maybe one to now maybe two.
Maybe
so
two.
Tell us about this latest pipeline proposal between Alberta and Ontario.
It was announced by Premiers Smith and Ford Monday, straight after her barbecue, her pancake breakfast, and it's a west to east pipeline plan that would go through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and into Sarnia, Ontario, for refinery. Now, we already do ship Alberta oil to Sarnia, but it takes a diversion through the United States. And U.S. Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan wants nothing to do with this pipeline. It's more than 70 years old, and they're worried about looming environmental catastrophe. So they've been in court trying to get this Enbridge pipeline kicked out. So that would be the benefit of going straight across the country, not having to go through the U.S. Now, there's no proponents and there's no route, and it's a lot of pie in the sky stuff that they're going to start looking for right now. But the big problem right now is Manitoba, and Manitoba's Premier Wabkanu does not like pipelines, and he sort of publicly humiliated Premier Smith during the Western Premiers Conference out here a month or so ago, when he publicly lambasted her for not consulting Indigenous groups for the referendum. Now, both Premier Smith and Ford said they want this pipeline to have Indigenous consultations, and they want it, more importantly, to have Indigenous ownership in some way, shape, or form. But Manitoba is the only province that has said nothing against it, and Canoe has made clear his opposition to pipelines. So here's what I think is going to happen, Jeanette. Somebody will come along with bags and bags of money and give it to groups that were opposed, and now we're all for it. And there will be some Indigenous ownership, and I think Canoe is going to demand an offshoot pipeline to go up to Churchill, the port of Churchill on Hudson's Bay. The Manitoba government wants that port and its expansion to be included in the major projects office. And what else would a pipeline bring? Would be more exports of oil out of the Hudson's Bay, with the help of icebreakers, of course. But that would be a new way to get Alberta oil to market. So the straight Alberta to Sarnia would carry about 500,000 barrels a day and help build up a national reserve, which Canada was the only G7 country not to have when the war with Iran broke out. So, it's a make sense proposal, but again, you're always going to have groups against it that need to be mollified.
Of course, and then you also need to find some investors, don't you?
Yes.
Unless the government takes it all on, which So speaking of which, Alberta's got its referendum coming up, and it was the talk of it was intensifying, particularly in light of an Alberta separation. So there was chatter that it could lead to investors becoming hesitant to devoting time and effort in Alberta, but at least one pretty smart talking guy doesn't seem to be too worried about it, does he, Dave?
No, and we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. He of Facebook fame. His parent company, Meta, is going to spend $13 billion with a B to build a AI center up in Sturgeon County, which is northeast of Edmonton. It's going to create. It's one of the largest private sector investments in Canadian history. It's going to create 3,000 construction jobs, 200 full-time jobs when it gets all built. It's going to make $250 million a year for the Alberta coffers. And Alberta rules on AI centers. You got to bring your own power. So they're going to be developing their own power center with natural gas. So it's certainly a massive investment on Meta's part, and they obviously weren't too concerned about the all the separation. Chicken Little talk about the sky is falling, and investors would be silly to put their money here. Mark Zuckerberg's a pretty smart guy, so I'd probably tend to agree with him on the environmental, sorry, not the environmental, the economic stability of Alberta.
I know this is all fairly new talk, but any talk of opposition to what his plans are there?
Well, again, there's always talk of opposition, and there was talk after the Corb Lund petition. What other types of things the activists there could get involved with, and this AI center is a good example. So if all the Corb Lund environmental people wanted to have another go at it, take two, to try and stop the AI data center up in Sturgeon County, they could do it, but they'd have to go through the whole process again and collect more signatures than they did last time.
Right. And speaking of which, getting back to the Alberta referendum, like I mentioned there, so that's coming up in October. It should include several questions, initially 10, but now it's looking like it could be less. So, what's the latest on that? We're hearing that Corb's petition didn't quite meet the cut, right? Because I believe they had to verify signatures that ended up not being counted, I think, or they were unverified, I believe, right?
Yeah, they needed 178,000 signatures.
Correct.
They handed in 196,000. So Elections Alberta uses a statistical graph that's way too complex for me to understand, but it basically eliminates 5% of the signatures submitted. That took him down to 172,000. So he ended up 6,000 short. So close, but no cigar.
Yeah. Do we know
sorry.
what the issues were with these signatures?
Well, just that they came in without addresses. They couldn't get a hold of the people on phones that sort of thing. So this is the process that the two sides on the referendum went through, and they both the Forever Canada one was successful, and the independence one is now being counted. But we're entering right now what I would call the phony war of the referendum, Jeanette. It's basically people putting up signs and trying to get their message out through billboards and whatnot. And then you've got videos of people taking signs down and throwing them away, and signs getting vandalized. And so it'll just be like a regular election. I mean, every election I've ever covered has had signs vandalized. So
sign, everywhere a sign, right?
Everywhere a sign, and it's not newsworthy, but I guess when someone's got them on their doorbell camera, it adds a little intrigue to it.
Yeah, and of course, I think most of that is talking about the Alberta separation. So Stay Free Alberta has had a partial court win, so they can have their petition verified now while awaiting their court appeal.
Right. And it's almost irrelevant, Jeanette. I mean, the question is going to be asked, or a question is going to be asked. It might not be the one that they wanted, a definitive one, but it'll be interesting to see what the final count of signatures gets. I imagine it'll be well above the threshold that they needed. So probably
unless they can't be verified.
Unless they can't, well, they're going to take out 5% no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see. I think obviously they're going to succeed, but how far they succeeded. I think they were trying to get 500,000. I think they'll probably end up with somewhere around 400,000.
That's a lot of signatures.
It is a lot of signatures.
Any talk of sabotage, that somebody might sign a petition and purposely leave off an address or sign it multiple times so that it sort of cancels?
Well, if you remember the the voters list, the electoral list, was published by one of the independence groups, and the Elections Alberta has salted the list with some fake names. So if they find a fake name in one of the petitions that's handed in, they've known that the group has cheated just by using the electoral list that was put out illegally and still under RCMP investigation. So they do have ways to find the cheaters.
Yeah, they do. Let's switch gears completely here. So, Dave, it looks like the fragile ceasefire in the Iran-U.S. war now over, and there's some new bombs flying. So, Dave, what has caused these bombs to fly once again?
Well, I think Donald Trump has finally realized what the world has known for the last several weeks, that the Iranians are playing him for a fool. They do not negotiate in good faith, and they're just dragging him along. So he went on a bit of a tirade on Wednesday and called them scum, and lots of other names in the book. And the bombs are falling again. There were, I think, more than 90 separate bombing runs on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and Iran is firing missiles off too. So I guess the next question is, what is Israel going to do? Are they going to rejoin the attacks against Iran, or are they just going to sit this one out? So Trump has realized that the Ayatollahs are all crazy, and there's no negotiating with them. So he's going to try and go back to dealing with them the hard way.
Very volatile situation over there.
And which could send oil prices skyrocketing again. They're back down to around $70, well below the more than $100 at the height of the Iran war. But this could bump them up again, which would obviously benefit the Alberta Treasury.
Yeah. Amazing what a domino effect one part of the world can have on the rest of it. Western Standard Chief Editor Dave Naylor, thanks so much for joining us once again today. Appreciate it.
Happy Stampede, Jeanette.